All right, looks like we've got quite a few people trickling in and joining. But considering it's 11:01, I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. So welcome everyone to the Nimble webinar. This is our AI focused webinar for March. One of our first webinars of the year, and really excited to share quite a bit of content with the group here. We've got a pretty dense lineup, and today's focus is going to be on the hot topic of AI and how AI can be incorporated into your business, whether you're a startup looking to launch new technology or you're an enterprise looking to bring AI to your users and to your business counterparts. So as a brief introduction, I'm Martin Mason, co-founder of Nimble, and I'm joined with me today with two Zachs, so Zach Chapman and Zach Barrett. So Zach Chapman runs our platform alliances and has a deep understanding as to how the low-code, no-code platforms are enabling developers to create really cool technology, and also how AI components are better integrated into applications. And then Zach Barrett is very close with our delivery teams and our customers and understanding the use cases of how AI is applied inside real enterprise applications and startup applications. So for an agenda, we're going to hit a bit about how we got here. Like, why is Nimble developing quite a few applications using AI? Talk a bit about that, give some context for the company. I see some new faces on the call, which is awesome. And then we're going to do live demos. So everything today is live. There's no AI here right now. We're going to actually be showing, real applications. We're going to bucket them in three categories. So retrieval augmented generation, which I'll get into in more detail. Optical character recognition, which is a technology that's been around for a while, that's really been enhanced with AI. And then developer empowerment. How is AI making development teams more productive, whether those are low-code, no-code teams or full-stack development teams? And then we'll have a few takeaways at the end, just summarize some key things for you to know, key terms and terminology that would be helpful as you're figuring out your AI strategy in your company. So just a bit about Nimble. We're a fairly new company, but most of our leaders and team members have been working in enterprise application development for beyond the last decade. Founded and located in Boston. We've got quite a few team members all over the world, just almost at 60. And for us, it's all about enterprise application development. We do start off with a tech advisory offering where we learn and understand your business, your use case, and then we map that to one of those few platforms on the bottom there. So depending on your needs, certain platforms make sense when it comes to low-code, no-code development. And then some of our customers either are transitioning or improving their applications using full stack development. So at our core, we're an enterprise app dev company. We do offer web development as well. And our primary types of clients we service are enterprises, so small to large. But we also have about 22 startups, and a good amount of them are showcasing AI capability. So those startups are inspiring a lot of what we're going to showcase today. So here are a few of the startups that work with Nimble, and a lot of these use cases are built upon AI. Some of these startups have already been acquired, others have received their first major investment, others have received their first revenue with customers. And there's different themes in these startups that we're going to get into and showcase as we go through the three different use cases that we'll be demoing today. So in terms of a focus, we've all heard of generative AI. So if you use ChatGPT, that's what you're using now. The more relevant enterprise iteration of generative AI is what you call retrieval augmented generation, or RAG for short. So the few demos that I'm going to do are going to be around this RAG type concept. And I'll break down like how that's relevant for a business, and then also how some of our startups are leveraging that to sell and position to a business. And then Zach will take us through the optical character recognition part of it. And then Zach Barrett will take us through developer empowerment. These are the top three for today. There's kind of a whole catalog of AI components that might be relevant for future webinars or future use cases. If you have questions as we're going through this, as we're going through the demos, please post them in the chat, and then we'll answer them as we're going through the presentation. That way, while it's top of mind, and then we'll get to it live at the end if we don't answer it by then. So for the RAG concept, just to break it down in kind of a simple but balanced way. So in terms of like, what are the technical nuances and considerations when it comes to RAG? When you're the user, and we're all used to the prompt of ChatGPT, when you're entering a prompt, what RAG allows you to do is what's referred to as prompt engineering, is you can wrap inputs around a fully formed or well-engineered prompt to ultimately get a better output or better response. But the layering of that prompt with your data, so this is where the kind of the augmented concept comes in, is you can supply these applications with your own data, which the form of that is most commonly files. So think PDF documents, and that's where AI is best with reading that text and converting that text to embeddings and moving that to a vector database. But your data in itself is the difference here. So you can create your own customized responses that are a little more structured, right? If you're always looking for a sales quote and you want the sales quote to include certain things, then you can set that up in the prompt engineering part. The other common request that we see is connecting to cloud systems. So think systems like Salesforce or HubSpot or just like other externally accessible systems that you would access via API. And then you also have your core, mostly kind of on-premise systems or custom systems that's especially relevant for the enterprise. So the same way that a low-code, no-code app might connect multiple systems in terms of a workflow, AI would in RAG benefits from connecting to these different data types and creating or pulling back a better response. So all that data gets combined with an LLM. So most familiar with OpenAI, but even a large language models like Mistral. And then the process goes through a search, synthesis, and summarizing that information ultimately for the user to get a better response. So this is a bit of the technical flow, but also the business sequence that you would be used to seeing with if you're using a RAG application. Just to show you an example of summarized example, here's an application that for Nimble integrates to our website. It connects to our cloud drive. It uses all of our proposal information, our quote information as we're scoping applications and all that content that goes into scoping. And then our sales teams and our customers can ask a simple question, say, I'm trying to quote this app, and the response will actually link to documents or use the general information it has to play back and summarize that in a prompt. So this is one sort of simplified example. You got the connections on the left and you have the output on the right. In the two demos today, I'm going to show two applications that we support for a client or we built with our customer. So the first one is a RAG model for food service techs. So these are technicians that are out in the field and they're visiting restaurants and they're trying to either fix a machine that might be broken. So think a fry later machine. And normally they would have to go back to the truck or make phone calls or do some research to respond. But this application will allow them to easily respond while they're at the site, and it accesses that information, which I'll take you through. So the high-level overview of this app is there's two main personas. So one is the initial setup of data. So the company IT teams come in, they're uploading manuals in mapping those to models. They're doing some prompt engineering. This data now becomes available to a mobile app, and this is what the technician uses. And that technician is interfacing with a chatbot. They're doing summary of notes, and they're filtering, that information is filtered to the technician based on the model that they're looking at. So this pattern is very relevant. You've got one team of people setting up the data, kind of approving, refining, and updating that information. And then you have another end user that's accessing a well-structured question in a consistent manner. In this case, this is a customer service use case here. So I'm going to show this left-hand side first, because I think it's important to understand the setup and then how the concepts of the data model get structured here. So very simple. On the left-hand side, you have the manufacturers and models. So the manufacturers are the makers of the machine. Those manufacturers get set up, and then you have the models here, where all the different manufacturers state their models, and then they're uploading these PDF documents on the right. So you can see that some of these have multiple, some of them have one. This is the hard part. This is just one manufacturer with a ton of documents, and these files are getting mapped to that model. So once you see, so I'll show you what the chat looks like, but there's also this information now gets combined with an enhanced prompt. So this is where more of that that the intelligence of the business is getting embedded here, and the way this iterates is they'll see the responses and tweak the prompts. And this UI allows you to really ensure the responses are really going to be helpful for the technician. And you can see there's quite a bit of context here or content here. So let's see what it looks like from the tech side. So if I go over to this mobile application, by the way, this is Retool. And then now I'm flipping over to Flutterflow, all using the same Firebase backend. And a very simple chat UI here. And I can see previous chats from before. And I'm just going to tap this bottom icon here. And the first difference is that instead of just being presented with a chat, I have to enter in a manufacturer. So that's filtering the data. And then I'm going to select the model. So from here, then I can just provide a summary of what the issue is. So the machine's not turning on, I'm trying to figure out what to do here. And then tapping the troubleshooting button will combine. In this case, we're only really looking at that one PDF document. But in other RAG models, you might want to combine those PDF documents with the large language model information. And what it's working on is now that response, and it will play back that response here. There are times where, like, even this part, that playback, like, that took 10 seconds, right? So we're seeing this technology get better and better. When we first started developing this app, that took about 25 seconds. And this is using OpenAI just as one example. So as we're building these apps, the foundation and the fundamentals are getting better. But here you can see the response. And then you now, as a technician, I have the ability to ask follow-up questions. I can say, tried number one and it didn't work. So then I can continuously interact with the AI engine, again, augmented by the PDF document. Some improvements that we're making are just the annotation. So this is showing me the text from the PDF document. And then you can also, if you want, get to the actual file by clicking on this and then going to the PDF doc. So again, it's all about real simple user experience for the technician here. And then things like notes for this visit is another concept that's really helpful. And then summarizing the combination of all this interaction and then posting that potentially back to a core system, like a work order management system, is where we see this app evolving. But that integration back is another reason why you would have the app sort of facilitate this interaction here. All right, so that is one RAG example, and kind of going rapid fire a bit here. So I'm going to go to the next one, which is a form-based RAG model, conceptually similar, where you can supply your own data. But this one is the target audience here for the setup is a business person. So anyone in an organization can configure a form with input. So think type form. You can configure your own prompts and you can manage your own data. In this case, this app is primarily focused on PDF documents. And on the other side, the user of the form will just answer the questions, and then they'll see the response as soon as they hit submit, it'll play back to them. So let's see how this one is set up. So I'm going over to the application here. So the really cool thing about this app is it's built in Bubble. So this is a no-code form builder built on a no-code platform. A very capable platform in general, and you can see that from the UI here. So you have this sequential form builder on the left. So I'm defining my questions. You can, what the question is, description, help text, all that. So I have these 4 questions set up in this particular form. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a preview of what that form will look like to the user. Take note of these parameters here on the top, because this becomes relevant when I go to the prompt engineering side. But these parameters then reused on the prompt engineering screen. So going over to that page, if I go to the prompt here, so this is what's truly unique about this app. Like, everyone knows about a form builder, but when you come into the prompts, I can drill into this initial prompt here. And this is, you can see how we're wrapping the answers to the questions around the prompt. So I can better tailor this response with my own information. In this case, what we're doing is we're quoting an app, and I'll share this link with the people in the chat. And then you can get a sense of using our data, like, what would an app cost you and what deliverables you would expect and things to consider. The data side is at the very end here. So this is the RAG concept in full effect. So you've got a folder, and these are just some files that I uploaded to help supply the prompt and then eventually the response. So let's take go look at this. So I'm just going to click on this tab here that's share. So this is how I would share this. I can embed this form on a website. I'm just going to get a direct link to the form here. Paste that in. Okay. And I'll just fill this out just so you can see how it looks to the group. So we first asked you describe the app you want to build. I'm going to copy and paste from something I've set up. And also what's notable is this is how Nimble thinks about coding your application. So we like, what tech stack do you want to build this on? Is there a preference? So you can kind of select the one you prefer. And then what scale are you looking to build this app out? So there's more, a few options here. So these are the three things we ask. Like, what are you trying to build? Is there tech stack preference? And then are you trying to just build something to demo, or are you trying to do a replacement, to a larger market? So when I hit submit here, so now it's taking, what's slightly different here is it's taking these tailored inputs, combining it with the prompt engineering that I showed you, and then running that up against the PDF documents that were uploaded, and then combining some of its own information with the large language model, which you can actually configure or point to back on that prompt screen. So yeah, this is an application that looks like a Uber replacement app. So you can kind of get a sense of what the deliverables are and just how we would structure this, and also what the cost of every deliverable would be. So this is helpful content, right? Just either for our sales teams or for our customers to just get a general sense of effort and cost for an application. All right, so I will post this form towards the end here. And now I'm going to shift back to just zoom out a little bit more and talk about the RAG overall for an enterprise. So if I go to a general solution of how these layers all work together. So if I'm a company and I've got lots of file data, cloud systems, data that I want to collect from users, and I have on-premise systems. I mean, these are a lot of our enterprises, and this is where it gets different from an individual just sending information to ChatGPT versus an enterprise trying to build, an application like this. So data sources are key, and then when you build the RAG solution, you have to consider things like the vector database. What kind of vector database do you want to use? What large language model is relevant? How do you want to configure and set up your prompts? Who's doing that? Who's making these decisions? Those are your subject matter experts, and also they have to understand the users, right? The people that are going to be receiving these responses. And then how you put it into a UI, there's tons of options there. Like low code, no code really accelerates these interfaces. So you could build a mobile app, you could build a website, a web app, chatbot. So the interfaces are we're all used to that, but it's the power of everything underneath, with the foundation of your data being leveraged to come up with these better responses. So, hammering the point home about leveraging your data, there's pros and cons of that, right? But, using your data for these responses, you also can take these RAG systems and build them more internal to your network. And then they'll also be able to get beyond some of the limitations that just a custom GPT imposes on you. So because you're building this, through an application, you can deal with large volumes of PDF files, of data, of connecting to your systems, going out to the internet and doing some searching there. So there's some just expected limitations that you would see in ChatGPT, for example, and then you can kind of move beyond those. And then the internal network is also important for security. You want to build this RAG platform so it's internal to your network. There's some examples on the bottom that I won't get to just because I want to make sure I'm doing good on time. Two cautions. So one is that information security. Like if you're using large language models today, if it's an external model, you might be training that model with your data. So you might not want to be sending your data over, externally. You want to keep that secure. The other thing is if you're building these RAG interfaces, you also want to make sure no one asks a question and gets a response from data they don't have access to. So someone could ask, for a salary of an employee if you're connected, right, to these systems. So there's a layer of security that's in heavy consideration when you're building these out. The last thing is your data itself. Like you need to make sure your data is accurate and it's filtered, it's approved, it's reviewed. Even when I set up those examples, I didn't want to upload all of our quotes, right? Because I want to do the ones that were accurate, right? So you have to do some type of data governance. And then this will be amplified even more with relational data systems. When we start asking questions like how many materials did I sell last year? And we're connecting ERP systems and all that. So your data governance and data quality is an important consideration when building a RAG model here. All right, so timing-wise, I think we're doing pretty well. So I'm going to hand over to Zach Chapman, who's going to take us through optical character recognition.